It is 7:30 on the dot. Welcome to our meeting. Today is March 10th, 2025. March already. That's all I'll say.
It's amazing.
Please stand and join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay. The mission of the White Plains Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students while nurturing their dreams so they learn continually, think critically, pursue their aspirations, and contribute to a diverse and dynamic world.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent reflection as we remember Mrs. Antoinette Ann Edwards, community member and previous president of the Highlands PTA and member of the White Plains Board of Education from 1983 to 1987. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have some very brief moments very brief comments from board members. And, thank you, Dr. Ricka, for that moment of silence. Ann was one of us. She was a part of the Board of Education family. And on behalf of the district, we did extend our sincere condolences and that we stand on the shoulders of people like her whose interest was this school district, and this community. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about Ann Edwards as well. Back in 1974, when I met a 14-year-old girl from White Plains when I was 15, I met Joe Falcone, my mother-in-law, and I met Ann Edwards and a powerful group of women and others who, of different political parties, of different persuasions, different philosophies, but they put the community first. So they were sort of my collective mentors. And I really loved Ann Edwards, and sorry to see her pass.
I didn't know Ann myself, but I appreciate all the dedication and service time she devoted to the White Plains City School District. So may she rest in peace.
Any announcements?
Oh, the one thing I wanted to say was I went to the GW STEM Fair, and I thought it was really cool because there was a lot of participation from girls, and you always hear how STEM and girls, there's not a high participation of girls within STEM, and it was good to see that a lot of the winners were girls, and a lot of the girls got together in groups and created projects, and the projects were really cool to look at, and there was a high participation from students and parents at the evening, and they also presented their projects during the day, so it was really cool to be able to see.
I forgot.
What? Oh, the parade, yes, we went to the parade.
The St. Patrick's Day parade, several of us marched on a very, very windy day, but it was wonderful.
I will be brief. It helps when there's a vacation also, during the time period between meetings. I did attend Post Road Family Math Night, and very well attended, saw math in motion, which was pretty cool. And the kids were just really engaged, as were their parents. I also attended middle school PTA meeting. Keenan Bean did a very interesting law webinar on Valentine's Day called "I'd Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That." What to do when the love bug hits your workplace. So they talked about relationships and all sorts of interesting, legal minefields and how to be careful. I did attend a Brookings Institute webinar on the Department of Education guidance on race and civil rights, and so that was really interesting to hear. And you feel like everything is old news already, right? That was already a couple of weeks ago, so this is ever evolving. And the final thing I just want to mention is, the New York State School Boards Association, where I am the area director for Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland. We had our quarterly meeting up in Albany, and in advance, I had asked this board and actually boards in our region to help submit questions. We were supposed to meet with one of the deputy counsels of the Federal Department of Education, to discuss what was going on. And because Linda McMahon had not been confirmed at that point, we found out that morning that he was not going to be allowed to speak with us. The White House would not let him speak with us. So instead, we ended up having a really robust internal conversation about the New York State School Boards Association, and really reaffirmed the mission in serving all students and all school boards, and also reinforcing, we have what's called our SOAR campaign, which is success equals, okay, now I'm going to forget it. Opportunity, appreciation, and resources, which is really the DEI work that we've been doing with NYSPA. And, nobody can argue with opportunities and appreciation and resources. And again, we reaffirmed that mission as well. So I just want to, make that really clear, and hopefully at some point we will be able to speak with the Department of Education. But I think that one of the points that was made was it's essential to support all kids. The Commissioner of Education had spoken to some of the NYSPA staff and said to stay strong and move forward and do your best for all children. And the only other thing I do want to mention is that NYSPA has really made a commitment to assisting with student representation on school boards. As of July 1, all school boards are going to have student representatives, as we have been ahead of the curve in doing this. And NYSPA will be providing resources. There's going to be on May 7th a webinar, so there will be information on students serving on boards. There will be an FAQ that's put out. There's actually been a sample policy for school boards that want to have a policy on this. So more to come, but I think that's exciting, and that's something that's being taken very seriously to ensure that students really do have an impact on their school boards.
Thank you. You good? I'm good. You good? Okay. If we don't have any other comments. Next, we're going to move into public participation. So the board will entertain comments from the public on any issue with a time limit of 3 minutes per person, with a maximum time limit of 25 minutes. And as some of you already know, or you all know, is that although we do not typically respond directly to comments, we do take notes, and Dr. Ricca and the assistant superintendents will follow up accordingly with you should you have any questions or a further desire to add some clarity or want to have a conversation on your topic. So when you step up for public participation, please state your name and address. Please step to the podium. Please speak into the microphone.
Mr. Shepherd.
Not yet.
Hi, everybody. Pardon my voice. I had a very active teaching day, so it's on its way out today. I come here tonight as a parent of one and soon to be 2 White Plains High School students, and also as a White Plains High School teacher. Like many educators and parents, I see daily how cell phones interfere with learning, preventing students from fully engaging, developing critical thinking, and strengthening essential reading and writing skills. I was extremely happy to hear New York State will ban cell phones in classrooms. However, without strong, clear, tiered consequences, the ban will fail, and the school culture will not change. Students at White Plains High School had the opportunity to give feedback about cell phone use through a survey, yet teachers and parents were not. Thus, I wanted to take this opportunity to give feedback from both a parent and a teacher perspective. I started this school year using the exact phone pocket system that will be used next year, but I gave up after 2 months. With 26 to 30 students in all 5 of my inclusion ELA classes, enforcing it alone was impossible without consistent parental and administrative support. If a clear, tiered policy is put into place, more teachers will have confidence in using this system next year. Right now, there is no standardized consequence when students are referred to house administration, making enforcement inconsistent and ineffective. A school-wide policy, first tier being a warning, second, office confiscation with release to the student at the end of the day, third, office confiscation with release upon parent pickup, and further consequences for repeat violations would create accountability and give this policy the best chances of succeeding. Most importantly, the policy must be clearly communicated to parents and teachers before the school year begins. A mandatory 10-minute Zoom assembly on the first day of school, for instance, would ensure everyone understands the rules, expectations, and consequences. Teachers, administrators, and parents need to be committed to this process. Without this commitment, students will remain distracted, teachers will struggle, parents and administration will be left frustrated, and the ban will fail. A structured, enforceable policy is the only way to make this ban work and making a lasting cultural shift. It's time to get this right. Thank you all for listening to the feedback that I have.
Thank you. Can you please state your name for our minutes?
Yeah, sorry. Sarah Jabor, 185 Longview Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Do we have any more public participation for tonight? Thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback.
Can I just share?
Yeah, you can share.
Just so you, and you probably know this.
I saw it on the agenda.
There you go. All right. No, you're right on time. So tonight is adoption, which would put the policy in place to begin officially in the 2025-2026 academic year and leading up to all that notification, as well as incorporation of the code of conduct. The vision, and thank you again to our student representatives for soliciting feedback from the student population. The vision is to really work in tandem with our students. And the governor's proposal for the ban, as it presently exists in the executive budget, may or may not continue that way in state law. Because one of the things that folks have been talking a lot about is school districts all around the state have had different approaches. And to your point, good policy is policy that can be enforced. And policy that also has buy-in from all of the members, of the community. And so the hope is that local boards of education will have the opportunity and the ability to modify based on, because like to your point, right, some classrooms, those pockets will really be work and be useful and helpful. And maybe if I'm a student who knows I have to take this thing out of my pocket and put it somewhere so that I don't accidentally pull it out or, have the, so all those different types of approaches, are really nuanced. And so the hope is that the governor will maintain the expectation that all boards of education have a policy, and that we get the distraction out of the classroom and give you the support. Yeah.
Whether it's a lock, some of those lock things don't work, or a pocket,
Right.
as long as it stays in the bag and there's consequences,
The consequences, the first consequence is you're not getting what you should be getting from your classroom instruction.
Yeah.
And that's the big one. And so our hope is that, in working with students and making sure that there's, that partnership, that it'll be very few and far between. At first I can envision we're gonna have to do a lot of reminding,
It might be a painful couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But when you get into the groove,
And then you get into the groove and, thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thank you. Good night. Next, we are going to go to our superintendent. Dr. Ricker.
Thank you, President Eller, and good evening again, everybody. And it's my pleasure, as always, to welcome our ex officio student members for their monthly update.
Good evening.
Yeah, pull it right up to you.
Right up. There you go. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm thrilled to share the amazing progress our elementary schools have made over the past month, showcasing the dedication and effort of our schools put into providing our Tigers with rich opportunities and lasting memories. At MAS, February's focus was on integrity, teaching students how to demonstrate honorable behavior at school, at home, and in the community. The school celebrated their 100th day of school with creative projects, and as Black History Month concluded, MAS reflected on the significance of the month through a gallery of over 32 influential African American figures. The PARP initiative wrapped up with an exciting finale hosted by the MAS Cheer Squad, where students exceeded their reading goal by logging over 200,000 minutes. Additionally, donations reached $30,000, which will support the PTA's effort to enhance the recess program. This year's principal challenge was a highlight, with Mr. Janowitz and Mr. McCarthy skating and dancing to Eye of the Tiger. MAS is now looking forward to focusing on empathy for March and celebrating Women's History Month with their students. At Post Road, students wrapped up their 8-week Broadway dance program with fifth graders performing impressive routines from various Broadway musicals. The school is grateful to Friends of White Plains Public Schools for making this opportunity possible. Post Road also hosted a family math night where students engaged in math games and were excited to see Mrs. Brady in attendance. Last week, they kicked off their One School, One Book initiative with the story The Lemonade War, where students followed the tale of two siblings with competing lemonade stands. Church Street School celebrated the 100th day of school with a Zoom celebration and welcomed kindergartners with cheers. As Black History Month came to a closure, students reflected on impactful individuals through song and lessons. In March, they launched the One Book, One School initiative with The Silver Arrow by Lev Grossman, where students received a copy of the book along with a special video message from the author. The initiative includes trivia and vocabulary lessons focused on animal conservation. Spirit Week brought out the creativity of the Church Street Tigers, who dressed as book characters, wore wacky accessories, and celebrated future careers whilst honoring culture during World Day, culminating in the Great Color Showdown. Looking ahead, Junior Achievement volunteers will teach financial literacy to kindergartners through second graders, while the 4th and 5th graders prepare for the talent show. The month will also feature Career Day, the Invention Convention, and Women's History Month celebrations with read-alouds and new learning. Lastly, GW hosted its annual STEM Fair, where students from grades 3 to 5 proudly showcase their research. The school extends their gratitude to the community members who served as judges for this wonderful event. Thank you.
To continue, Eastview has started preparing its 6th grade students for their transition to 7th grade. Each team visited the Highlands campus for a tour of the building, where students were introduced to the various exciting programs available to them. This hands-on experience allowed students to feel more comfortable and confident about their move to the next grade in a new building. In addition, Eastview hosted 5th grade students from the elementary schools for a brief overview of middle school, including a tour of the building. The tours were led by former students from each elementary school, giving the incoming students familiar faces to connect with. This event gave them a sneak peek into what to expect when they join Eastview next school year. Lastly, students are eagerly looking forward to a trip to see the Westchester Knicks at the County Center tomorrow, March 11th. This trip will offer an enjoyable opportunity for students to bond and create lasting memories. On March 5th, Eastview also hosted Curriculum Night, where 5th grade parents had the chance to hear from the district coordinators and directors about the 6th grade curriculum. This event had a great turnout. On Friday, February 28th, the 7th grade class took a trip to the movie theater in Ridgeville to see The Unbreakable Boy. The movie, which tells the inspiring story of Austin, who has brittle bone disease and autism, teaches valuable lessons about resilience, gratitude, and the power of family love. The White Plains City School District covered the cost of the trip, and the students received popcorn and water to enjoy. This year's spring musical is Newsies Jr., based on the 1992 Disney movie. The musical follows a group of young newspaper sellers in New York City in 1899 who go on strike against powerful newspaper publishers. The show highlights the themes of courage and unity, and the cast performed a teaser show for most of the elementary schools in Eastview on March 7th. The full performance will take place this Friday on March 14th at 7 p.m. and March 15th at 3 p.m. at the White Plains Middle School Highlands Auditorium. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for students and seniors. Rochambeau had several exciting events in February. On February 5th, Wellness Day offered students full-day workshops with representatives from organizations such as Margaret's Place, Alcoholics Anonymous, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and the New York Peace Institute. On February 12th, a representative from BOCES spoke to 10th grade students about career and technical education opportunities for the next year. During the Quarter 2 Recognition Award, students were recognized for their achievements in various subjects, including social studies, art, music, health, physical education, and attendance. Over 50 certificates were awarded for honor roll and high honor roll, as well as character awards. Representatives from the Youth Bureau and Grandpas United attended and served ice cream to students afterward. On February 25th, the Rochambeau staff participated in a walk-run as a part of the Team Building Tuesday. On February 26th, Ms. Morrell and an administrator from Peekskill School District were invited to speak about restorative practices and alternatives to suspension at the BOCES Disproportionality Targeted Skills Group meeting. Lastly, on February 27th, seniors were escorted to White Plains High School to attend the Divine Nine School Days presentation in the Media Center. The recent production of Pippin at White Plains High School was a huge success, with 3 outstanding performances that captivated audience despite challenging weather conditions. A big congratulations to the cast, crew, and staff for their dedication and hard work. In addition to the production, Tiger Breakfast celebrated our students of the quarter, recognizing their achievements and hard work. A special thanks to the PTA and staff for their continued support and for nominating these remarkable students. The SAIL program also held a variety of impactful events this month. Their art night provided a welcoming space for students with communication challenges to express themselves creatively, while a memorable ice skating trip to Bear Mountain and a heartwarming Valentine's Day party brought students together in joy. Thank you to the National Honor Society students and the SAIL team for organizing and uplifting these experiences. In celebration of Black History Month, Spanish 3A students, under the guidance of Señorita Peña, completed a thoughtful project that highlighted the contributions of Black individuals, particularly those in Spanish-speaking countries. February's Tiger Community Day was another success, with clubs spreading positivity and love throughout the school, and the course fair went smoothly despite weather adjustments as well. The event provided valuable insights to help students make informed decisions about their academic paths. Staff showed their school spirit during the Underground Staff Spirit Week, bringing a sense of fun and camaraderie to the school. Students enjoyed seeing their teachers embrace the theme, fostering a strong sense of community. The School Days event, in partnership with the Divine Nine, educated juniors and seniors about the history of Black Greek letter organizations, scholarships, and community service, providing invaluable lessons to students. Additionally, the Avid College and Career Fair and Life Skills Symposium brought students from multiple schools together to share their projects and aspirations, fostering collaboration and encouraging students to pursue their futures with purpose. We were also honored by alumnus Dan Selpian's visit, where he shared his story about wrongful convictions and justice, offering powerful lessons on perseverance and the pursuit of fairness. We were also Randy Weingarten's visit to observe our Educator Pathway and PLTW courses highlighted the amazing opportunities available to our students, and we are proud of the work being done to prepare them for future success. Finally, the Midwinter Strings Concert showcased the exceptional talent of our students, while the Incubator EDU Mid-Year Pitch event gave aspiring entrepreneurs a chance to present their innovative ideas, demonstrating the creativity and ambition within our school community. Lastly, White Plains High School athletes achieved great success this winter, with 25 athletes earning all league honors, 2 earning all conference recognition, and 1 earning all section honors. We also had 2 state competitors. Genesis Garcia competed in the girls' state championships, and 8th grader Kelly Doherty competed in the ski state championships. Upcoming, the spring season will begin on March 17th for high school teams and April 1st for middle school teams. Thank you, and that is all for this month's report.
Good job.
Thank you very much. As always, very, very busy 4 weeks or so. Great job, thank you. I also just want to thank the Board of Education for participating in this past weekend St. Patrick's Day Parade. Super fun, as well as our PTAs and our students who marched in the parade as well. So really great. Very, very blustery, but it wasn't snowing, and it was a great day. As a reminder, Evening of the Arts, also tomorrow night, Post Road. Hopefully, we're done with winter weather. I might have just, maybe I ruined it, but hopefully we're finished. And just as a follow-up and, for the board and for our community, next steps, and thank you, Mrs. Augarten, as well as the committee, next steps in the Public Consulting Group Special Education Study is underway. The participants who volunteered to be in our focus groups will be participating. Thanks, everybody. As well as overall action planning, which will be taking place. And the frequently asked questions will be posted as well. So that progress is moving right along. Incubator EDU, which was just mentioned, had our pitch day, but also, and next month will be the official recognition. Also won a Champions of Change award. Thank you very much. New York State School Boards Association identified Incubator EDU, and we of course agree. It's a fantastic program.
Second award.
Yep. So
Great.
really great. So we'll recognize them next month. We will also be recognizing our Winter Scholar athletes, as well as a presentation from Science Research. So next month will be great as well. I do also want to congratulate and thank the Board of Regents for welcoming our representatives. I think today Mrs. Lyons participated in giving an update to the Board of Regents about the teacher pathway and about the work that's taking place here in the White Plains City School District. I did also mention the cell phone policy that is on this evening for adoption. Of course, if need be, if the law requires we revisit, we will. But at least this gets us in a place where we can begin planning for implementation next year for all of the reasons that were already eloquently stated this evening. Wizards game is going to be taking place on March 22nd. For those who are interested, the Harlem Wizards and the PTA will be running that at the high school, and that'll be very exciting. And then for the remainder of the superintendent's report this evening, we have our presentation of the preliminary proposed budget. So we'll move over to. Good evening, everybody. And for community members who are watching at home, all of the information that we're going to talk about this evening is available on the district's website under the All About the Budget portion, including additional backup information that's not part of this presentation. And if anybody has any questions about the proposed preliminary budget, you can always, first of all, you can always call us, but you can email. We have a special email address set up, budget@wpcsd.us. And so plenty of ways to ask questions if you have any, and a great deal of information available on the district's website in the All About the Budget section. So the agenda for this evening, and you've seen a great many of these slides, because this is an iterative process where we're building and building and building all year long as we move toward the ultimate presentation of the proposed budget. So some of the slides I'll just kind of guide through, and those that are new, we'll spend a little bit more time on there, and certainly for any questions that the board may have, please feel free to stop me anytime. I would be remiss if I did not thank Dr. Ann Vaccaro-Taish, all of the folks who are working up in the Business and Operations Office, Dr. Hand, Mrs. Augarten, Mr. Pepper, all of our colleagues in the buildings and departments, because it is a team effort to get us to where we are this evening. Also, the Finance and Audit Committee spends a great deal of time moving through the sections of the proposed budget, getting us to this evening. And those folks, it's a big job. So thanks to the Finance and Audit Committee as well. So we follow a cycle of planning every year. And hopefully it seems somewhat repetitive, because that means we're staying on target. We update our strategic plan annually, and we make sure we make revisions to that plan that are going to meet the needs of our learners today, not the needs of the previous year. And that's important to us, because we want to make sure that we're flexible and we can make the changes needed in accordance with our goals and objectives for each annual year. And then, from the strategic plan, all of the goals and objectives are built all the way through the organization. Then we get to the long-range plan, which gets updated each year, and it's a longer view where we're also factoring in our fiscal plan and making assumptions about what are some of the potential issues that we may be facing in the future. And one of those issues that we talked a lot about at the beginning of this academic year were shortfalls that we needed to make sure we kept our eye on. We needed to make sure we attended to now, so that they don't become major structural issues in the future. And, unfortunately, one need only look at the local paper, and you can see in other school districts the challenges that arise when unfortunately structural deficits become a reality. And then you're talking about making dramatic shifts to the overall instructional program and the services and supports that students receive. And we don't, of course, that can happen to anybody, but we want to take every possible step we can to avoid that type of a situation for us here in the White Plains City School District. And then we get to the proposed budget for the 2025-2026 academic year. Planning is important because you don't know necessarily what you're going to be dealing with on any given day. And, I hear a lot of times people say, like, in these uncertain times. Well, for us, every day is an uncertain day, because we want to make sure that we're taking all of the different things that are coming at us in an open system like education, and we're making the appropriate assumptions as well as planning steps to address all of those things. And we just name a couple up here that do impact school budgets. It also makes sure that we're best positioned to be efficient and effective with the resources that we have. It also encourages us to make reallocations throughout the organization to avoid cuts to programming. It helps us to stay fiscally healthy by making sure, again, that we're constantly attending to every dollar that's spent within the school district and making adjustments based upon not only what our children need, but also what the budget can support into the future, right? Not just today. And of course, it assists in planning and understanding the long-term implications of decisions that we make today. Decisions that we do, decisions that we don't. Everything has an implication for the future, and of course, everything is somewhat of a compromise, always trying to get to the place where we're delivering the best possible, highest level of education, and also maintaining that level of fiscal responsibility to the taxpayer. Our strategic plan continues to remain focused on education, support, and partnership. And this budget will reflect those underpinnings as well. We want to make sure that we always share what efforts have been made over the years to be as responsible as we can with the resources that we're provided. And this slide does a great job of really tallying up, and I'll ask Ann to say a few words about this because truthfully, the credit is yours. What we have been able to accomplish over the years in terms of savings to the district.
Well, it's exactly what you said, Dr. Recca, that we're constantly, planning and looking at not only the current year, but future years. So, the goal is to continually find efficiencies and to be able to conserve taxpayer dollars in the future. So when we do have savings in a particular year, due to those efforts or additional revenues and efficiencies, we are turning those monies back to our taxpayers in ways that are such as we're not raising the tax levy to the maximum allowable for $26.7 million over the past 8 years, and including 25-26, we were allocating to reduce the maximum allowable tax levy. We've used $68.3 million from capital reserves to fund our capital projects, so that means we're not issuing debt. And so that saves taxpayers monies due to the fact that we're not having principal and interest payments. 15.6 million into our debt service reserve fund so that we can use those monies to fund future debt payments and not building, the whole expense into our annual budgets. 28.5 million to pay for commercial property owners who have tax certiorari refunds that are due to them through the courts and their petitions. We're self-funded for that expense. 1.2 million to pay off our technology leases. We've used 3.3 million, again, self-funded. When we have employees who separate from the district, there are certain payments that are due them according to their collective bargaining agreements. 24.2 million we've utilized in one-time only expenses. Again, not building that into the annual budget. There's no reason to. 3.6 million reduction in the overall appropriations budget in 21-22, and then we've utilized 4.2 million to fund pension expenses.
We continue, or we utilize a continuous improvement model. What's working, what needs adjustments, what could be strategically abandoned, what do our children need today, as opposed to what we thought they needed yesterday. And this allows us to continuously make changes as needed, constantly upgrading the curriculum, right, Dr. Hand? Constantly reviewing and updating curriculum, programmatic review, reviewing academic achievement, looking for areas where we need to provide additional supports, extracurricular and athletic participation, up, which is great. After school, summer programming, universal approaches to education, making sure that every one of our children has access to the educational curriculum. Staffing and services, making sure that we have the right people in the right positions throughout the organization and where they are being deployed throughout the district, as well as planning for our future. We constantly look at these guiding principles, right? Protect the instructional core. Make sure that if we have to make reductions, we make them as far away from the children's instructional program as possible. Evaluating what needs are versus what wants are. And we all understand that there are a variety of different things that we would want to have on any given day, but what we look at first is what did the children absolutely need, and making sure that we can preserve the investments that we make. Are they going to be sustainable into the future? Looking for efficiencies and ways to share services. On the agenda this evening, you're going to see a partnership with Southern Westchester Board of Cooperative Educational Services to utilize some of our space at Rochambeau next year. It's an additional revenue source. It provides programming and opportunity for students in our school district who may need services, as well as sharing services in partnership with BOCES. As a singular example, delaying programmatic impact wherever possible, and then reducing and restructuring versus cutting or eliminating. That's important to us as well, because once something is out of the budget, it's very, very difficult, as you all know, to get it back in. Iterative process, various presentations, all leading up, right? So again, long-range plan, the instructional budget, the non-instructional budget, and also operations, all looking and bringing us to the preliminary proposed budget this evening. And so we get right to the heart of it early in the presentation. We'll go deeper, but tell me what I need to know, Joe. Does this budget support all of our children's programming? Does it support all of the activities, all of the extracurriculars, all of the athletics, all of the arts, everything that the children have had access to this year? And the answer is yes. Does the proposed budget stay within the tax cap? The answer is yes. Does the proposed budget continue to attend to the promises that were made to the taxpayers in previous years with regard to capital improvements and maintaining that tax levy that doesn't increase based upon capital improvements? The answer is yes. Did it close the budgetary gap? The answer is yes. Does it put us in a position in future fiscal years to be able to address those shortfalls that we predicted at the beginning of this cycle? The answer is yes. So again, and we'll go deeper into this throughout the presentation, but the news is good. We are at 1.67%. as a recommended increase in this budget, again, within the tax cap and maintaining of all of our students' programming. Good?
You did a great job.
Okay, thanks. Have a good teacher. Other sources of revenue, and we do look at this. Where does the money come? Well, by and large, it comes from, as we all know, the property taxpayer, which is why it is so important that when we build these budgets, that we are respecting the property taxpayer and try to make sure that those budgetary recommended increases in the levy are as small as possible and really are focused on what our children need and what is going to be sustainable into the future. So almost 75% of the sources of revenues are real property taxes. Now that's changed, which is great. It used to be higher, probably around 88%. But as foundation aid has become fully funded, right, that percentage as a share has gone down. But it's still the lion's share, or the tiger share. State and federal aid, again, just about 18%, and de minimis going all the way down in terms of revenue. This slide I'll ask Ann to talk about because this is important, right? So the tax levy cap is a complicated mechanism. We talk about, a lot of times you hear 2%, the 2% cap. It's not. It's 2%
For a part of it.
for a part of it. And when we're talking about tax-based growth, when you have development in a community, if there are payment in lieu of taxes, pilots, so-called pilot agreements, they impact your tax levy cap, and then they impact your ability to raise future levies. Now, I'll step aside.
So, as Dr. Ritka said, it's complex. There's several factors. The first factor is the tax-based growth factor as part of this calculation, physical additions to the property tax rolls per New York State. And so this year, we're almost at 0% again. Last year was 0%, this year is near 0%. So we're not generating any tax revenue from that tax-based growth factor, although there's been plenty of development within the city of White Plains. And it really has a lot to do with the pilots, the payment in lieu of taxes. Those are agreements made with the Westchester County Industrial Development Agency and the city of White Plains for developers to come in. Those properties are removed from the tax rolls, and there's separate agreements, and we receive monies over the course of time, whatever the agreement calls for, but it's not through the levy process. So we're losing estimated about $2 million for the fact that last year and this year it's been almost zero, so $2 million each year. So when pilots are increasing, prior year versus current year, the net of those two numbers, when that increases, the tax levy will go down. Come the point when the pilot agreement expires and the property comes back onto the tax rolls, then the levy will go up. Then there's the 2%, what we always hear, 2% cap, which is allowable growth factor, the lesser of consumer price index, which was 2.95% for the year ending 24, or 2%. We're capped at the 2%. Pilots is another factor in this calculation. Our net increase is $1 million. And then the capital exclusion, which is added to the tax levy to pay for our principal and interest of construction projects, debt payments, less building aid, less the use of the debt service reserve funds, is what we're allowed to raise in the taxes for the levy. So here's the complicated formula, but what's important is the top part of this calculation is really restating the prior year tax levy. And you can see that after the backing out of the prior year pilots numbers, applying the 2% allowable growth factor, you can see that we have an adjusted levy of $202.1 million, $202.2 million, which is $983,000 in the prior year levy. And that's primarily due, if you look at the $6.7 million number there for pilots for 24-25 versus the $7.7 million that will be the pilots for 25-26. So that's really a net increase, so it's decreasing that levy. And then you add in the capital exclusion, which is your debt service, principal and interest payments, less your building aid. And once again this year, based on our advice from our fiscal advisor, in order to maintain our capital tax levy as being flat, we're using $3.3 million from capital reserve funds. And so you can see on the right-hand side that that net number, 4.4 million, is similar to the 4.4 for the 24-25 capital tax levy. And you want them to be the same, so we're not impacting the taxes for the taxpayer. And that's the whole point of keeping it flat. So we're not impacting that. So yes, our maximum allowable tax levy as prescribed by law could be $209.9 million with a $6.7 million increase, or 3.31%. But we're utilizing our debt service reserve until we can issue debt and until state aid kicks in from closing out and completing these projects, to bring the tax levy down to $206.5 million, 3.4 million increase, or 1.67%, which is the recommendation.
So promises made, promises kept, and that's important because when we went forward and we had our capital plan in place, that was a promise made to the community, and so thankfully we have been able to continue to achieve that. But it does make sense to ask the question, well, couldn't you raise our taxes more? And you might say, nobody would ask to do that, right? But maybe someone would. And the answer is no, we couldn't. Because if we did, we would negate the promise to maintain the levy that we have made in previous years. And so, it sets us up again, not that things are going to be easier in the future. We still have to keep our eye on being fiscally responsible and maintaining that same expectation that the board has in place for these years. But it does allow, again, for us to be able to move forward and keep that promise in place.
And it would only impact 26, 27 because of the nature of the formula. So it would make a decrease then the following year. So the goal is to keep finding efficiencies and having strategies in order to make sure we are closing any known or seen budget gaps that we might have, because the reality is the tax levy cap is not in pace with what our expenses are growing at. 2% is not enough to keep pace with 5% in utilities, 10% in insurances. So there always has to be other strategies at play.
So we're in a different place than we were, though, in previous years, and we're grateful for that. And even as we talked about the pilots or the payment in lieu of taxes, there's advocacy, and there has been advocacy to have that as an exclusion. And to be able to set that out and apart from the tax levy cap in the future. And hopefully this year, maybe the governor will support that. Last year, the year before, it was vetoed. But we're continuing to sort of share the message of why that would be important for school districts, particularly because we recognize it is important for municipalities throughout the state of New York to be able to grow proportionate to what their communities need and what they see as beneficial. But the governor definitely did, in her executive budget, set us up in a different direction this year than we have in the past, and we're grateful for that. Right now, the legislature is working to bring together the so-called One House budget, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, either tonight or tomorrow, there was hope that there would be something, but that the deadline would be reached this year. Remember the last couple of years that we went past the deadline. So April 1st, right? So we're hopeful, and we're looking forward to that. And we are grateful for our elected officials in our area, in our delegation, for the hard work and advocacy they do on behalf of not just the children of White Plains, but also the children in Westchester County and the region. There were some actions taken in the governor's proposed budget. Not all of them. There were a lot of recommendations in the Rockefeller Foundation aid study, but there were some that were taken that did assist in terms of the designation for the recommended foundation aid allocations this year. They replaced the census data that was being used, that was decades old, and also replaced the free and reduced lunch measure with economically disadvantaged data. They also, or I should say, other changes, the state sharing ratio for Tier 2 was increased. There's a minimum increase in the governor's recommended budget of 2% for all districts, and the so-called Save Harmless districts were kept intact. We are not one of those, but that was good news for some 380 school districts around the state. Expense-based aids are funded at current law. There's no changes. Universal school meals, increased state subsidy for community eligibility program. And of course, our students benefit from the breakfast and lunch to a great degree each day. And then, of course, which we talked about before, the distraction-free learning environment, the so-called cell phone ban. And we'll see how that shakes out in the final law and budget. Did I get it? Yeah, this is you.
So what a difference a year makes, right? Last year, school districts were going to have aid taken away from them because they were on hold harmless, and now this year, current law is being able to run, in addition to the recommendations from the Rockefeller study. So for us, current law actually yielded $2.6 million increase due to our pupil counts increasing, and then here's the advantage of, that played into having decreasing property values or tax rolls. We certainly did look a little poorer as compared to statewide averages across the state. So that yielded $2.6 million, and then the changes for the Rockefeller study yielded another $858,000 for a total increase of $3.6 million. Versus what, during long-range plan, we were anticipating that the Department of Budget, they only included mid 2% increases for the aid. So this was definitely helpful in closing, our budget gaps. Same thing with expense-driven aid, allowed to run based on current law. And so that's yielding $1.2 million based on the February databases. And again, that's expenses incurred in the prior year that are aided at a certain ratio, building aid, transportation aid, BOCES aid, our instructional materials, as well as special education expenses. We're grateful, but there's still work that our advocacy groups and our local legislators are doing. And then the tax levy cap, as we mentioned before, it really should be the greater of 2% or the consumer price index. At least try to keep pace with increasing costs. The tax levy exclusion really should not be a factor in evaluating available carryover. Back in the old days, if you didn't need to raise the levy, okay, you didn't have to tax at that point. You could wait until a future year when you might need it in order to, raise those dollars. But that's not possible with the way the formula works. Tax-based growth factor pilots, those assessments should remain as part of the growth of a community. Those folks are moving into our district, homes are being built, we're receiving kids. Fund balance flexibility, we're the only municipality, school districts that have a cap on their fund balance. Cities, counties, villages, towns do not have a cap. The Government Finance Officer Association recommends 10 to 15% in fund balance of your undesignated fund balance. Regional cost index. Again, part of the foundation aid calculation, we're grouped up with upstate New York, and we're not grouped with New York City or Long Island, but these are the vendors and the businesses that we engage with and the costs of what it takes downstate. Prior period adjustments, so the state audits, right? When we submit our year-end financials and we do all our state aid reporting, they right away will audit. If they overpaid you, they're gonna take that money back. If they underpaid you, you're gonna wait a really, really long time. So this is like the 5th year where the governor has not included funds to pay districts their prior period adjustments, $308 million for the entire state. White Plains is owed $515,000 going back to 2011-12. And then pre-K. We really do need it to be fully funded, and we need the price per child to be competitive, and it's not. $5,400 is not enough to provide a full-day program.
And again, lots of work here. This is an annual process of advocacy, and we've made a lot of progress, from where we were 10 years ago, I guess. But at the same time, these areas, particularly pre-K, the regional cost index as well. We talk about unrestricted reserves, and you're absolutely right. But we stay at where by law we're supposed to be. But when you talk about the regional cost index, that puts us at a tremendous disadvantage, as does pre-K. I mean, it's so important to be able to offer, and when I say us, I mean all of us regionally. We're very fortunate in White Plains. We can access our pre-K funds. We have high-quality partners that offer pre-K services, but that's not the same for all districts in our area. Major areas of expense. This is exactly where and I'll show this in a different way in a moment, but this is exactly where we want to see the expenses with our kids. So the vast majority of the school district's expenses are right in instruction and the people who are delivering the program and supporting our students all throughout the organization. The demographic data, we're showing it to you in two ways, because one is what it really looks like, and one is real close, so it looks more dramatic.
Thank you for the first graph.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so what you can see is, you can see we're flat. And there's a little bits of ups and downs over the next 10 years or so, but relatively really flat and stable in terms of our enrollment. Folks do ask, are you incorporating the anticipated housing units, the projected number of students, and are they reflected in the budget for projections? And they're not. We do monitor them, we do know them, and we do use them in terms of planning, but in the budget, we are planning for the students who are part of the school district, and these properties, some of them have not even been built yet. In terms of staffing, all of the staffing in the proposed preliminary budget aligns with the collective bargaining unit agreements. We did, and thank you very much to the Board of Education as well as our colleagues in the WPTA. We did run a retirement incentive that is estimated to yield a savings of a bit more than $600,000 for the 2025-2026 academic year. All the vacancies to be filled have been reflected. And we do have some additions at Mamaroneck Avenue School for a self-contained classroom, and that's a 1.0 full-time equivalent teacher, 2 full-time equivalent teaching assistant, and a half-time, part-time, full-time equivalent speech reallocation. And high school addition of 0.4 for dance, and through a reallocation of 0.4 foreign language. The budget, again, supports all of the staffing, as well as provides for contingencies if needed in the future. You've seen this slide a lot, but really what it's doing is it's showing you what those increases are in the teacher's retirement system, the employee retirement system, the health insurance that we participate in, which is Swiss CHIP, the statewide schools cooperative health plan, different than NYSHIP, different than the state plan. And while there is an increase, it is far lower than the state health insurance increase this year. And workers' compensation insurance, less than 1%. Our experience was down from previous years,
Working on that, yeah.
which is great. Other changes, utilities, average increase of 5%. Property insurance, lots happening in terms of property, whether it be storms, floods, fire, you name it. There are all different types of considerations there. We did achieve a sewer reduction of just under 100,000. Thank you very much, and thanks, of course, to our community member in the Highlands who turned us on to that question. So that was fantastic. Yeah, and the city assessor, of course. Other contractual increases: consultants, Board of Cooperative Educational Services, of which we're a component district, tuition, contingencies. We made reductions to some areas district-wide based on trend analysis, and we really look to make reductions all throughout the organization. We have a new agreement for pupil transportation. Again, came in huge in terms of where we were at, but also proportionate to what the market is bearing and what we're hearing right now in other school districts. 51% for big buses, 61% vans, 41% attendance. Home to school increase 2.52. Summer school 100,000. Athletics 130,000. We offset the increase by eliminating capital project funding of 1.5 million and reallocation of bus and fuel oil of 562,000. Debt service.
So just as we've been talking, so we have the principal and interest payments for our current construction serial bonds, and then we anticipate issuing for the 22 project authorization, 40 million this coming year, 25, 26, and then the balance, $20 million in 26, 27. So we'll have principal and interest payments of 1.65 million for total debt service of 11.54 million. But then we back off the debt service reserve fund of 3.34 and the anticipated building aid of 3.9 million. And so we end back with the 4.3 million that is being funded through the capital tax levy.
So the tax certiorari, and again, these are claims, tax claims on commercial properties, not residential properties. We, as Ann had mentioned earlier, self-funded. We have a 10-year average of about 3.7 million per year. For 24-25, council has estimated total refunds to be about 5.1 million. And our reserve is reserved appropriately. You may have remembered there were questions related to some school districts throughout the state being over-reserved, exceeding those. That is not us. We are where we're supposed to be.
Council gives us a line by line, very detailed of what our claims should be. So we rely on that information to set aside the reserve.
Okay, for our instructional program, and I will not read all of these slides to you. But please, I know the board has reviewed this. For folks watching at home, please take a look because there are so many amazing things happening now and also planned for the 25-26 academic year. And much, if not, well, I should say most of these initiatives are being done through existing resources. Or reallocations within the budget. So again, trying to maintain that fiscal line, trying to make sure we are staying within the tax cap, trying to make sure that what we're asking for in terms of the levy is sustainable into the future as well. So you start off at pre-K and you move your way right up through elementary, middle, and high school. At the elementary school, of course, we're continuing to recommend an adoption of English language arts, core resources K-5, continuing to support professional development, making sure that we're supporting the mathematics program and the implementation there, renewing Envision, that's actually K-2. We are also continuing Science 21 and the New York State Science Learning Standards to include 4 investigations in grades 3 through 5 and all of the materials associated with that. Computer science and digital fluency standards, K through 5. We are also making sure that the the multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, is supported K through 5 as well. Universal design for learning, and then as I had mentioned, the addition of the staff to be able to support the 12-1-2 classroom at MAS. Eastview and Highlands, support for small instruction and conferencing, curricular resources for language and vocabulary, also professional development for the writing revolution is being supported, program evaluation for mathematics, adopting or rather aligning the science sequence with the New York State science learning standards and also professional learning aligned to curricular resources for grades 6 through 7. Computer science and digital fluency at the middle school level as well. We are working with a data consultant to build a data-rich environment throughout the middle school, utilizing student learning outcomes and student achievement data to continue to drive the instruction and the conversation related to instructional practices. We are focusing on extended day opportunities to accelerate learning at the middle school level as well. We are looking at all of the master scheduling to identify new ways to be able to deliver instruction to students in the most efficient way possible throughout the academic day. And also monitoring growth through NWEA and the MAP assessment, and professional development support for universal designs for learning. At the high school in Rochambeau, we talked about the dance program coming online, coming to fruition beginning next year. Additional options for science course sequences, increasing the number of students earning the seal of biliteracy and/or the seal of civic readiness. We had mentioned aspirationally, we really want to see 100% of our graduates earning the seal of civic readiness, and we can achieve that at the high school level. Computer science and digital fluency standards also at the high school level, collaborating with Southern Westchester BOCES on career and technical education opportunities for our students. Plan of action for the MTSS, the multi-tiered system of supports at the high school. New courses will be dance, intermediate ceramics, climate change and natural hazards, farm to table and economics and government of food, financial literacy, introduction to business law, Project Lead the Way Environmental Sustainability, which is part of the Pathways to Engineering strand, as well as a variety of new courses in physical education. We were looking to move the requirements for some of, for instance, aquatics next year. Looking at that, as you know, we hear a lot from our Tigers at the high school level related to those courses, and so making those adjustments moving forward as well. Operations and programs in athletics, the numbers of students participating in our athletics continues to go up, which is really fantastic. Opportunities for participation, scholar athletes continue to increase. The number of students we're celebrating at our each season as being identified as scholar athletes. Our summer sports academy will be again supported this year. Thank you very much for that. It's fantastic. Retention and recruitment of coaches is excellent. And then continuing to improve our athletic facilities, which is part of our capital improvement plan as well. Safety and security updates district-wide and building level. Again, in accordance with what's both required, but with what is also best practices to keep our kiddos and our school communities safe. Annual drilling, testing with students and staff, and also local law enforcement, the Department of Public Safety. We have also installed ballistic film or glass in foyers and entryways in some of our facilities. We will have high school gates, control gates at the back of the high school, which will assist in off hours. This is going to be weekends and evenings. Mm-hmm.
And remember at the parade, how the commissioner was so thankful for what the school district is doing and the partnership that we have with them.
Yeah, that's absolutely, and we're great, and we're grateful for them as well. And you know, that's what he said. We're going to be there in seconds, and they will. 7 seconds, and you know, those seconds are so critical. And so working with the Department of Public Safety, being able to identify ways that we'll be able to keep those seconds in between, you know, has been really great. Also continuing to build out our Verkada security camera systems. As you know, these are really cutting-edge camera systems that do assist in keeping not only our children, but also our community safe, because they're outside of our facilities as well. And oftentimes we are called upon by community members to assist should there be something that occurs. And a lot of things happen. You know, sometimes a dog gets out. And you know, people could actually, really, Joe, people would actually ask if we could look at a particular time and see in a direction a dog is on. So, you know, all of these different things help to keep our entire community safe and secure. Information technology, enhancing our cybersecurity platforms. We are, again, moving to a new communication platform for parents, guardians, community members. This will be Parent Square, which we'll migrate over to in the summer. And this is a platform, many folks are probably familiar with it, that's used really by a number of school districts throughout the state of New York and also nationally. Very user-friendly. We're upgrading the phone systems. And again, our BOCES installment purchase agreement is there. Pupil transportation, transitioning to Durham bus services, 70 new buses. Stop arm cameras. The efficiency study is being implemented, which of course means we're bringing all of our elementary school start and end times in line. And assisting parents and guardians as we're able with making that transition. Again, we made that announcement a year in advance. And also communicated and connected and continue to do so with parents and guardians in the Church Street educational community as needed. We do have FAQs up online now for parents and guardians. We've been working with the Youth Bureau to make sure that we're building out before and after care services and supports for parents as needed. and we'll be moving forward that way. And that, of course, continuing to implement the New York State zero emissions mandate as it is today. But we'll see if that exists or if it gets modified in terms of the implementation date. Food services, again, self-funding, right? All food services self-funding. We're continuing to focus on culinary and involving student voice in the foods that are offered throughout the school district. We're going to ask Mrs. McGinn to come in and to share with the board, but a lot of really great upgrades that are coming from conversations with student focus groups, including offering different types of foods that wouldn't necessarily be available, like for students who have, special diets or dietary restrictions. And one example that we shared with you, with the Board of Education, I think it was last month or the month before, was for students who don't eat meat. What are the available proteins that they have access to? Right away, Dawn and the team began working, and now they're already trying new recipes with our students that will include tofu and tofu-based dishes, as well as chickpeas, I think, right? Yep. Good stuff. We are also seeing a much expanded participation, of course, in both breakfast and lunch, and we are planning to have snacks available to student athletes and students who are participating in after-school activities, and be able to have that throughout the program as well. We're also replacing and enhancing freezers and refrigerators at in the high school serving line, as well as I mentioned, the after-school snacks. And this is all self-funded, right? So this is not part of the general operating budget. And facilities and operations, looking to, and you'll see in a slide in just a moment, work toward our capital projects. As you know, we had that update last month, as well as NYSERDA and our on-site energy manager, which will complete not just the energy audit throughout the district, but help us to implement the recommendations for the energy audit to save costs. And so we're looking forward to continuing to look for ways to be more efficient as well as sustainable moving forward. Projects that are going to be coming through the existing facility finance and operations budget. Post road, field construction, drainage. Again, I'm just going to hit the highlights. I'm not going to read these all to you. At GW, things like replacing the gym doors, working on the fields as well. MAS, drainage, restrooms, HVAC, Rochambeau, restrooms, security vestibule in the front to secure that entrance, as we discussed a couple of meetings ago. Ridgeway, repaving the playground and the walkways, parking lot, storm drainage repairs all throughout the school district. At Church Street, auditorium and vestibule flooring replacement, replacing HVAC system in the main office. At the high school, restrooms, water heaters, HVAC equipment as needed, tennis court resurfacing, storage containers out in the fields, HVAC equipment in the locker rooms, safety netting for fields 10 and 11, that's really important. The softball scoreboard is being replaced, as well as the top plank at the bleachers, the pool. We're also replacing the bleachers in the gym at the high school. We were just there today with the vendor and looking at that replacement. Actually, replacement is going to be taking place, I believe. We're going to try to get that done over the spring recess.
Wow.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
The bleachers in the gym, you said? Oh, yeah, because there's those rails that are very big.
Yeah, the rails that are kind of like wings.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're going to get that fixed up.
Thank you.
And Eastview restroom and also security vestibule, again, securing that entrance. More projects, priority projects, Church Street auditorium chair replacement. So all throughout the auditorium, they're all going to get swapped out. Those chairs are tight, they're tight and it's time.
Yeah.
It's time, yeah. And also masonry out in the front, high school lacrosse shot clocks on the lacrosse field, storage, I've mentioned storage container. Eastview parking lot sidewalk, renovation of the restroom in the lower gym, Highlands, the stone exterior stairs, and adding 10 additional halo detectors for restrooms. Those are the detectors that let us know if somebody were to be smoking or vaping in a restroom. And they are placed in restrooms all throughout the facility and the district. Where? I'll never tell. But there, 10 more going in. Ridgeway, main entrance, security and office improvements, as well as bus loop, GW, a new walkway and play area, as well as some masonry work, drainage at MAS, and gym ceiling tile renovation, ceiling to reduce the noise level in the weight room and the gym at Rochambeau, catch basin replacements, as well as some glass work, and that Post Road, the concrete walkways and the gym padding replacement. Big stuff, steam traps, district-wide, fire alarm system upgrade at Church, roof replacement at Ed House, roof replacement on the media, or Building C, and the media center and the front offices at the high school, and also building-wide fire alarm system upgrades. Transfer switch for a new generator at GW, reappointing and masonry at MAS, and classroom heat pump replacement at Post Road. If you can believe it, it's already time for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, this is the big one, and this is important, and something to be really proud of. And I had made mention of it before, where the expenditures are. But this is your three-part budget. This is what you want to see. You want to see the vast majority of the expenditures in the proposed budget in instruction and program. And that's exactly what you have. We actually came out a little bit better this year than we did last year. Almost 77% of the expenditures in the preliminary budget. So what's in the three-part budget: capital, program, and administrative? This comprises your total budget. So in your administrative side, which is 7.67% of the overall operating budget, that's all of your administrative costs, including public information, central office services, insurance, BOCES administration, curriculum administration, building and department supervision, Board of Education, district clerk, superintendent, business operations, attorneys, legal services, as well as personnel. In your program, it's everything related to the instructional program and supports for our students, and that's 76.74%. In your capital, that's going to be 15.59%, and that's all of your operations and maintenance, capital projects, debt, short-term debt, if there is any, and associated benefits there as well. So very, very proud to be where we're at, 77% of expenditures in program. We talk about it every year. What happens if a budget is unsuccessful? What do you do? Well, in New York, you can do a number of things, and you do get a second chance to go out again if a budget was unsuccessful. And boards of education can choose to go back out with the same budget. They can make modifications to the proposed budget and go back out with it. But if it fails a second time, then you move into what's called a contingency budget. And a contingency budget really results, for us this year, it would result, or mean a result in a reduction of $3.3 million from the operating budget, 1.22%. And that's program, right? So you never want to get to a place where you're dealing with a contingency budget, which is why it is so important to communicate effectively with the voters and make sure that we're being responsible, fiduciarily responsible, and conservative in terms of any types of tax increases. And also making sure that all of the dollars that are spent in the budget are spent in a way that is directed toward the program in a sustainable fashion, because we never want to be in this situation. But if that were to happen, and it has happened to school districts in the region, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at, right off the top, you have to make those cuts. Yeah, so we definitely don't want to be there. And look, here's the thing, the most important thing. Everybody knows this. And again, as a social studies teacher, I have to say it. It is so important to participate in every election that takes place.
Absolutely.
And of course, it is so important to participate in the Board of Education and budget election that takes place annually on the third Tuesday in May. This year, it's the 20th, right? Every year to participate. And the hope and what we've seen in the past is that the community of White Plains recognizes the work that the Board of Education does, recognizes the program, recognizes the importance for children, and also recognizes how important it is to come out to the polls. And so again, we'll continue to encourage, because the more people that participate, the better. And so all the polling places, and we'll talk more about this as we get closer to May, but that is all available on the district's website. And you can even look, you can punch in your address and find out where your polling place is right on the district's website as well. So we've tried to make that as smooth as possible.
And it only takes a few minutes.
Only takes a few minutes,
Not even, it's in
Yeah.
not even.
Yeah.
Yes, President Eller?
Yes, so, you know, the budget is a year, I think after we vote, we go right into budget prep for the next year. I think that it's always budget season, and it speaks to the depth of the decisions and the depth of the work that is done to get us to where we need to be to support our staff and students. These are our futures. There's, you know, we need our staff, we need our students. They are our future. They need to be educated, and they need to be educated in ways that we don't even know what's going to happen. So, you know, not only, you know, are we working hard, we've got to set them up for a future where we really don't know what's going to be available out there, but they've got to be ready. So I think this is a very thoughtful budget, and I have to applaud the work. I know you know, Joe, you said, you know, the Board of Education, but really this is a team operation. There is no one part that is greater than the other. Everyone is participating. Every single person, every single assistant superintendent, everyone is participating. So, you know, we thank you as well. And I'm glad that you're open for questions, and that we have a venue by which people can provide questions and get direct answers. When we look around the landscape of what's happening around us in Westchester, I think we can say that we are ahead of the curve. We are well prepared. Our budget is well thought out and planned. And look, you know, there can be little tweaks tomorrow, the next day, because we are looking for the efficiency that will benefit our students and our staff. Everything has to be in concert with each other to work so that our kids can be the future, or have the future we want them to have. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to add also that we've had lots of opportunities to ask questions and the responses. We've done this in curriculum committee meetings, in audit finance committee meetings, previous board meetings. We've heard the components that have gone into this. So, and I'm sure we'll continue to have, you know, more questions as we go along. I do also want to add my appreciation that we really focus on planning and long-range planning. And as Rosemary said, we've seen in this region some of the pain that is experienced when that is not the case in school districts. So I also appreciate all the work that's gone into this and the benefits that it brings to our students and to our entire community. We are always looking ahead. We are always looking for continuous improvement. I am thrilled every time I see new courses and new opportunities, so thank you.
Yeah, I just like to echo what Cheryl said. You know, it's always the question every year and every day and every minute is, how do you unlock 7,000 students? And how do you do it responsibly, acknowledging where most of the money comes from? I'm a taxpayer in this town, but how do we unlock 7,000 students and to help prepare them for a world, as Rosemary said, is changing so rapidly, we don't even know what some of the opportunities and things are going to be. So really, thank you very much for a very thoughtful and responsible budget.
Thank you. And you know, also, thanks to the many, many, many community members who reach out all throughout the year and provide feedback. And it could be big things and it could be small things. But we get a ton of feedback from students, from parents and guardians, from former employees, you name it, we're constantly getting, information through a feedback loop. And we can't always do everything, but what we can do is listen to everything. And what we can also do is, where possible, put ideas into the planning process. So, where things might not necessarily be possible today, we constantly think about them for the future. And so I think that, to your point, yes, we have to live right now, in this moment. That's important, be present. But also keep an eye on the future, because we want to be as nimble and flexible as we possibly can be, to be able to weather whatever may come. And we've been through that before together, right? None of us anticipated 2020, 2021, 2022. But because of the planning and because of the ability to move through and make adjustments to long-range plan, we're able to deal with that. Budgetary shortfalls that came forward this year. Again, there are a lot of different factors, but being able to move through and close those shortfalls without negatively impacting program, that's really important. And, that's something that I think, again, thank you. Thanks to all of our colleagues who dug deep, and really looked at what the budget this year required, and what can we do next year, and how can we fill that hole, without impacting student program, without changing the construct of our colleagues and employee, like all of those things, right, that you don't want to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's that. Sorry, John. There's that budget at wpcsd.us for anybody who might have any questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Next, we're going to move into our summary action items. We have summary action items 4 through 8. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? You, Joe.
I'm back. I would like to draw your attention to item 4B, donations, and the following very generous donations were made this month that the board is accepting. $50 donation, the following donations for the Philip Barnett Memorial Scholarship is a $50 donation from Nancy Desplas? Yes. $50 donation from Mr. and Mrs. Richard Crystal. And we have a $4,200 grant awarded by the White Plains High School PTA to support the White Plains High School Band and Orchestra admission to the Philadelphia Orchestra. Thank you very much for that. A total of $8,250 from the Friends of the White Plains Public Schools for 3 newly approved grants. $4,000 for the high school band orchestra trip to a music competition in New Jersey in April. $3,500 for tickets for 42 Avid Program seniors at the high school to attend a Broadway show performance in June. $750 for the Sing Sing Chronicles presentation and panel for 75 to 100 U.S. history students at the high school on February 28th. And 15 Spanish books were donated to the elementary schools from Marcia Monteshine. Thank you very much for your generous donations.
Thank you. We are certainly very fortunate. Are there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Next, we're going to go on to our individual action items. There are 3. The first one is the adoption of the cell phone policy that we discussed earlier tonight. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor of adopting the cell phone policy 5695?
Aye.
All right. Okay.
Just a point of clarification. That goes into effect in the 2025, 2026 academic year, just for anybody who might be gasping right now. at home.
Sorry.
So there'll be lead time.
Yes.
And of course, the governor gets a say as well.
And we appreciate the student input.
Yes, we do. Next, we're going to move to the next item. This next item is the recommended approval of a resolution for the purpose of employee indemnification. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Questions on this? You? Yeah.
This is a resolution related to indemnification for district employees who were named in a suit. Of course, the process is to make sure that all employees have the appropriate indemnification during that time. There is no, we do not believe in any way that any of the expectations, policies, or procedures for the school district were violated, which is why those employees are receiving this indemnification.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the recommended action for the authorization to accept a lease agreement with Southern Westchester BOCES from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And this is where, where we agree to lease classrooms, 2 offices, and 2 other purpose rooms at Rochambeau to Southern Westchester BOCES. And Dr. Ricca touched upon that and the benefits of such. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Are there any questions? Do you want to add anything else? Good.
Just that, again, a real good opportunity here to partner with Southern Westchester BOCES to bring services to our students as well as other students in utilizing our facilities and additional revenue.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam District Clerk, I am abstaining, being on both
three.
the
Yeah.
White Plains City School District Board and being on the Southern Westchester BOCES Board. I was told there really is no conflict of interest. This is a benefit to both organizations, but so as not to have any appearance of conflict.
Yes. Thank you for not having any appearance of any conflict. I know, actually, seriously, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Just, to keep things above board and quick.
I will do the same at the BOCES board as well.
We trust and believe that you will. Okay. So next, we're going to move into board discussions. For our subcommittees, I will add that everything that was reviewed tonight in our budget was what we worked on at our finance and audit meeting. And again, we are thankful for all of that work and contribution. We did have our human resources meeting, which, as you know, we have this meeting, of course, the topics are confidential, but so those meetings do exist and they do take place. Anything else anyone wants to discuss briefly for our
Our
subcommittee?
special ed committee meeting was rescheduled till tomorrow night.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
And curriculum and instruction will be a field trip later.
Sorry, Wednesday night, yes.
Right.
Okay, so thank you, everyone, and, before we move to adjournment, just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We appreciate you, we appreciate your feedback. It is valuable, we hear you, we listen, and we're open, to any questions that you may have. To John Shepherd and John Misavage back there, making sure that our meeting is televised for those who cannot make it in person. We appreciate that. And without further ado, may I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.